Welcome and thank you for joining us on this recorded gallery tour for Format Festival 2021. My name's John Wall. I'm the Digital Participation Curator at Quad, and I'm here today with Abby Canning.
And I am the Q Club Programme Curator at Quad.
Great, so we're going to be looking at room 3 for Format 21. Room 3 is our young format room, and there's a number of different works that we'll take you through in this room, as well as look at some of the technical aspects of how we put this room together. So we're going to kick it off, and as soon as you land, when you start the room, you are presented with some work by Burton and South Derbyshire College students. These students spent 4 months responding to the theme of control, the Format Festival theme, and they looked at a number of different aspects within that. So what they were looking at is they were looking at the everyday limits that we put on ourselves emotionally and physically, as well as those that are put on us. So you're straight away presented with a scroll through of some of that work to draw you in to the space, and then to the left and to the right we go into the Young Advocates curated space. And Abby, do you want to just talk about the Young Advocates kind of selections and how this came together?
Young Advocates is a group we run at Quad, and for children, or for young people, should I say, between the ages of 18 and 25. For this exhibition, the Young Advocates put a call out for people to submit, other young people to submit work. There were over 160 submissions of work, which the Young Advocates worked as a group. The young people worked as a group to go through all of those entries and select just 20 out of the 160 submissions. They worked initially through all of the images, looking at how closely they met the call out brief, which was that of the Format Festival's control theme this year. So having selected their 20 images, they then worked with John Wall to construct this space and work out and curate how they would be exhibited. And this went from everything from positioning to scale and size of where the work was going to be shown.
And it was really fantastic to work with young people in this the New Art City toolkit, because we could work live. And when I say live, we mean kind of through Zoom, so we could communicate, but the young people were in the space with us. We could amend the texture of the floor, which we did do live. We looked at the layout of the space, which changed. We started off just with a series of walls for them to kind of think about where to position. And then that got changed over time. So we replaced walls with just the artworks themselves. Again, as Abby said, we were looking at scale and positioning. And it was a really great experience because young people could see live physically, or digitally, I should say, where the artworks can go and how they're positioned. So there was a lot of kind of consideration, and it's always interesting when working with young people, because they do have this consideration towards how work is selected and how work is shown, and I think they even noted about how this experience has kind of helped them within their own kind of university work as well. So it's always really great to see them use and adapt their skills in this way.
The previous Young Formats exhibitions in previous years in Format has been fully curated by the young people, as has this exhibition. But what the Format Online offered them the opportunity to do was to also construct a space with which they exhibited in. Normally, in previous years, they've been allocated a space and they've curated within that space and responded to the site and worked quite site specifically with the imagery. But in this exhibition, they were given the opportunity to actually construct that space and come up with it completely themselves, of how they envisaged an exhibition in whatever context and space that they wanted. So everything that you're seeing here was chosen by those young people and curated and produced by them, from the floor materials, from the shape of the gallery, and aside from the positioning of the works themselves and the walls and the scale.
I mean, it's really good that the kind of young people were involved in that as well. As Abby said, I mean, when you're working digitally, you can go to the extremes in terms of how you want a space to be. But the young people, certainly within this space, kept it quite gallery-like, which was really nice to see. They kind of wanted to keep it as if it looked like a gallery and take ownership over a gallery space. And as you'll see, there's actually kind of 3 parts to this room, and this is the first part. And when we were thinking about how to position and space out the different groups that are involved in this online room, we did initially kind of just put a box where this work would go, and then leave the young people to decide what they wanted to do with that. So even though this space still has that kind of box shape, it has changed. That we did change the kind of size of the space, how high the ceiling was, again the floor texture, and really kind of giving them just the basic tools to take it where they wanted. So it was really lovely to see kind of the kind of juxtaposition of this space compared to the others, because this was one of the last spaces to be constructed within that. So shall we move on to outside then, Abby?
Yes, shall we go through now to the work produced by Q Club Girls Group. Q Club is a group for children and young people on the autistic spectrum or with disabilities aged from 5 to 18 years old. The girls group is specifically for young girls on the autistic spectrum in Key Stage 3 between ages 11 to kind of 16, 17. The work that you're seeing here was produced in collaboration with art therapist Amanda Ray. And the young people were each given a sculptural house, and over a number of weeks they responded to the themes of inside and outside and the control that you have across what you're presenting to people internally and externally. There were a few technical issues in terms of the display of this work and the online setting. Originally we had planned to use photogrammetry to scan the houses that the young people produced, but due to technical issues, that wasn't possible. So what we've had to do was construct the house shapes from actually planes in terms of in that physical or in that 3D space. Then we've got these 360 panorama scans of the inside of each of the boxes that the young people had decorated when exploring those issues with Amanda Ray.
And it's really lovely to see, because they've constructed these spaces partly with how they're feeling and the things that they're going through in life, but they did all this within their home environments, where normally they would be at Quad working with us in a very different environment. So there's a very different feel to these works, and it's really lovely to kind of go in and see them. And as Abby says, we kind of had these technical issues around scanning the physical objects that were made, but what we've kind of managed to do instead, I think, really has a nice effect. And it's kind of piecing images together rather than constructing 3D shapes, which again, the toolkit that New Art City provide allows us to do that, which is really great. So we're going to move on to the real fun area of format. I think the whole room is quite fun, but this is one of my favorite spaces among Format 21. And Abby, do you want to kind of talk around this? Because this is work by Q Club, which is our Children in Need funded project at Quad, which Abby leads.
And again, that's children aged 5 to 18 on the autistic spectrum or with disabilities or additional support needs. During the summer holidays last summer, the young people were given briefs around themes of control for the format exhibition and given a photography task to actually take imagery that reflected or responded to those briefs, with the intention of exhibiting their work at Format festival here. So what you're seeing here are the young people's images that they took in response to those briefs. When curating this space, it was important that it was going to be a really interactive space that would be able to really hook the young people in and engage them into really exploring the work. And so we've came up with the concept of the bubbles to let the young people have a more interactive experience. Normally, when young people exhibit, or Q Club young people exhibit at Format, we make sure that that exhibition is interactive and will hold their attention, or has the best opportunity of doing that. And so we wanted to not lose that aim within the online space. And as such, we curated it to be a kind of fun, interactive space where they could explore around and have an experience, rather than just view it.
The one thing I really like about this space is the fact that it invites you to jump around, which you can't do in a physical space. I really like jumping from one bubble to another, and almost kind of jumping from one young person's head to another and getting a different perspective each time. And that was one of the things we also wanted, because we wanted different bubbles and shapes, scales of these bubbles, to make sure that each individual work you could go in and look at without feeling like you were being pulled in one direction, or having to crouch down. It was really important that even the smaller, and from the smaller to the larger scale of the bubbles, that each bubble had its own kind of viewpoint. And that's the viewpoint that's set of the height within the world. And you can kind of jump into these bubbles higher up, but you're not going to get that kind of stoppage that you do with the ability to jump and stand.
And again, with the interactive nature of this, as John touched upon then, it was really important that these, each sphere was given the space to stand as an individual work in its own right, because that's really important to the young people, to be able to see their work and have a real strong sense of ownership in that. So the bubbles have been positioned in order to allow them that space to stand as a work in their own right.
So there we have it. There's room 3 of Format 2021. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you've not visited room 3 yet, we will link the link to the room in the video below. And if you do have any questions, do get in touch with us, and you can email us at participation@derbyquad.co.uk, and we'll be happy to have a chat about any aspect of this this exhibition. But thank you again for joining us, and we hope you enjoy this space as we have, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.